Hi YouTube. Hey, I hope everybody's doing well out there. Let's see, this week I did a drywall repair, and one of the things I had to do on this drywall repair was to do a texture. And being a small repair, I was using the canned texture, and so I wanted to share some of my experience using the Homex heavy-bodied drywall texture. It definitely takes a lot of practice, a lot of experience to get good at it. And so in this video, there's all kinds of different things you can do with this stuff. But in this video, we're specifically looking at a light knockdown. And it's a pretty common texture down here in Central Texas. So I hope this video is helpful. I hope you'll like and subscribe, and make sure to check the description down below for any links. Thanks, guys. This is the repair that we're working on today, and being this video is just about texture, we're going to skip the whole taping and floating part of the video. I will do another video on that, but for now we're just going to skip that whole discussion. Now there are scads of texture products out there, but today we're talking about this Hormex heavy-bodied water-based, they call it a knockdown texture. There's only one of the spray nozzles that I like that you can see in this video. They've got 2 or 3 other options, but this is the one that I work with. And again, today we're not talking about doing the actual repair, so we're going to skip the blocking and patching and taping and floating, and we're jumping right to doing the texture. Probably the most important thing to remember using this canned texture is that it's a very light body. And if you don't feather the edges of your mud very well, it's going to show your patch. It'll kind of magnify, and those rough edges around your patch will just give away everything you spent all this time trying to hide. A little roughness in the field of your repair really won't make any difference, but around those edges, they'll just show off everything. Here we are with a finished sand, and you'll see that we've got some rough spots around the edges, around the inside edges, in the corners, and you can see right there's some rough spots. Those will be fine. They'll disappear. But these edges here, and where it mixes with the other texture, the existing texture, that's critical. You'll also notice too that this hot mud is still fairly damp, and that really doesn't matter as long as it's set. We'll talk about a new can of texture in a minute, but the coarseness of your spray is really determined by the texture that you're trying to match. Because this texture is so light-bodied and shrinks so much as it dries, we have to think about probably doing multiple coats. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to be spraying a coat that's going to dry, and that's going to help determine the depth of my knockdown. So you'll kind of get a feel for what I'm doing as we go along. But the other thing to keep in mind when you're setting the size of your texture that you're spraying is that if you get too heavy with this stuff, you're going to end up with bubbles in your dried texture, and you want to avoid that. So you're trying to get heavy enough dried texture to match the depth of the knockdown you're blending to, but you want to be light enough that you're not getting the bubbles in the dried texture. And then if need be, we can always layer it. We can add more as we go if you can't do a heavy enough coat the first time. The other thing to keep in mind is because there's so much moisture in this stuff, if you get too much texture on, it's just going to pool, and you're not going to get any depth to it. So you have to go in layers and dry the texture between your layers. In this video that you're watching right now, it just, because I have to paint the sidewalls anyway, I didn't bother to mask. So I'm just getting rid of the overspray on the sidewalls. For getting these jobs done fast, a hairdryer is your absolute best friend, and it speeds up these jobs so much. The next few minutes are just spent adding more texture and drying it just until I get the depth that I think I want for matching the existing texture. Okay, so I had to get a new can, and so that brings us to dealing with that. This stuff really needs to be shaken very, very well. When you first spray, you're going to get a lot of water coming out, so make sure you're spraying into something that you can clean or discard, because it's going to make a mess. And you need to shake and shake and shake. And if you don't get it shaken enough, you're going to get clumps of texture that you have to get blown through that nozzle before you can get back to good stuff. So just shake the crap out of it. If you don't shake it enough, you get this. So just shake it some more, and eventually that clot will blow out, and then you can get on your way. Once you're happy with the depth of that base coat, and it's all nice and dry, then you can go ahead and spray on your final coat that you're going to knock down, and you can do a good heavy coat. And once you've got it sprayed on, you can come right back and do the knockdown, because that dried coat that we've just talked about putting on is what's going to set the depth of your knockdown. So you don't have to worry about knocking down too much. Your depth has already been determined by the dry texture that's already on the surface. And if you didn't get it right once this is all dry, then just go ahead and continue. You can always add more. It's really not that big a deal. After you do this knockdown, it's going to look terrible. It's going to look like crap, but don't worry about it. Go ahead and dry it, whether you're just going to let it stand and dry or whether you're going to use the hair dryer. Go ahead and dry it. And then once it's dry, we're going to give it a very light sanding, and that'll just take care of everything. It'll look beautiful after you do that little bit of light sanding. Just a couple little techniques to keep in mind. If you have a crown, so if you have a ridge that runs along your repair, make sure that you knock it down across that ridge. Otherwise, that ridge is going to just be magnified. Now, if you have a step where one side is lower than the other, then you want to knock down along that step so that the knockdown bridges the step. Either or is still going to show, but this will help to hide a little bit those crowns and those steps. This whole repair, including blocking and patching and taping and floating and then doing the texture and getting the paint on, it was only about 3 hours for that whole process. So this texture really doesn't take very long when you use a hair dryer. And when it's done, even if the hot mud underneath is a little bit damp, you can still get this painted and done and out the door quick. If this information's been helpful, then please like and subscribe, and also watch the description for any links that might be helpful. And I will see you guys down the road. You have a great day.